All right, so as Renee said, I'm going to talk a little bit about functioning as family. And so I want to start kind of a little bit about how family is diverse. And one of the stories I thought I would tell is a little bit about most everybody here have not had the opportunity to meet my sister Jennifer. My sister Jennifer, about 18 months younger than I am. We grew up in the same house, they had the same parents, but we're very, very different. In fact, Melissa and I go down to Oklahoma every Thanksgiving to spend some time with her family. And about 3 years ago, Jennifer decided to come up from Dallas and spend some time with us while we were there. And so Melissa's family got an opportunity to meet Jennifer, and they just could not believe that we were actually brother and sister. We don't look alike, we don't have the same interests, our personalities are very different, and so there's just a lot of differences that we have in family. And so I thought in our context, what is family? And so the first thing I wanted to be able to talk a little bit about is how family is diverse. It's not about common interests like being on mission together or desire to increase our knowledge of the Bible, although those are both very good things. It's not about sharing politics, sharing life stage, like being married or not being married, or having kids or not having kids. It's not about financial position or status in society. It's not about our education level or whether we're male or female. We don't choose our family, and sometimes we don't even like some of our family members. And so, so what then does pull us and hold us all together? And so I thought what we would do is spend a little bit of time with Romans 12. So with the first few verses, therefore, brothers and sisters, in view of the mercies of God, I urge you to present your bodies as a living sacrifice, holy and pleasing to God. This is your true worship. Do not be conformed to this age, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. And so chapter 12 is a transition, and this beginning about in view of the mercies of God. So this is really, Paul has been describing who God is and what he's done for us, namely, that we have redemption in Jesus' blood through faith. And by his grace, we have become his children. So that's my first point, that we are bound together by the blood of Christ. So we are brothers and sisters called to present our bodies as a living sacrifice, to be transformed by the renewing of our minds. So with self-awareness and humility, we are to use the gifts that God has given us to build up the body, not for our personal benefit or gain. We're all at different levels of maturity, but regardless of where you are in life, or how well you know the Bible, or how closely you've learned to abide with Christ and trust him, God is asking you to live sacrificially and to give yourself to the community of believers. Less mature Christians provide opportunities for more mature Christians to grow in their own faith by learning to disciple. So let's now turn to the second half of Romans 12, where we'll see some of the behavior that's produced by a renewed mind. So I'm just going to skip a few of these sections for the sake of time. Love one another deeply as brothers and sisters. Take the lead in honoring one another. Rejoice in hope. Be persistent in prayer. Share with the saints. Pursue hospitality. Rejoice with those who rejoice, and weep with those who weep. Live in harmony with one another. So from verse 10, we're called to love one another deeply, and so that's my second point. As brothers and sisters, we are to honor one another. So what does this practically look like? First, it means spending time together. Maybe this is finding time to get the kids together at the park. So while the kids play, the adults get a chance to know each other. Or maybe it's going to another family's, their kids' sporting events or their performances. Or watching a football game together or having somebody over for dinner. Or maybe it's part of that good GC conversation that Renee was talking about. Hey, I heard you say at GC, let's get together sometime for coffee or dinner, and then take that time to really dig in. We know that we can't address everything that someone says in GC, so this is a good way to dig deeper and ask questions without putting someone on the spot in the moment. We all know someone who suffers from loneliness, And we need to learn to ask the right questions. Most of us have struggled with our marriages or our finances or addictions. These are heart-wrenching circumstances, and God did not create us to go through these circumstances alone. It can also mean learning to pray for one another in more meaningful ways. How is God speaking to you? How is he showing you his faithfulness? What are you currently struggling with? It also means getting to know one another well enough to know when something is wrong, when someone is weeping, or when they're rejoicing, and a willingness to share in those times. Perhaps they've experienced a significant disappointment, or perhaps they've achieved a long-pursued educational or vocational goal. Meeting practical needs is also something that families do. For example, I remember someone coming over to my house when I was out of town, and the snowblower wouldn't work for Melissa. Or it could mean sharing your car with someone who has theirs in the shop, or meeting the needs of a single parent, or a military family when the service member is deployed, or a family who is fostering or adopting a child. And finally, it means showing mercy with cheerfulness and forgiving one another. When we live in close proximity to one another, others will offend us. We are not perfect, and we are all being a sacrifice. Family is a safe place to grow. So before transitioning to my final point, I wanted to briefly contrast family living with individualism. There is no way to experience Christian life without Christian community. Lone wolf Christianity is just pride. It does not mean that our connection to others is primarily through social media. We are offering our bodies as a living sacrifice. This is an embodied community. But the point is not the community. The point is God. Close community is merely the effect. We are not a mutual admiration society, but a shared admiration society. It derives from our worship of God, the God who saves us. Our identity no longer stems from our family of origin or our professions or our interests and ambitions, but the fact that we are in Christ. Our identity is in Christ. That's my final point. As Jesus says in John 13, just as I have loved you, you are also to love one another. By this, everyone will know that you are my disciple, if you love one another. Let's let our light shine so that others can see and experience it.